Welcome to Sports Tonight on a Monday. Not normally here on a Monday, but I'm here today.
Welcome.
I'm happy to be here on a Monday, though, because there's a lot to talk about on this Monday. Emily,
Scott,
this is great every time we
it's a treat.
have an opportunity to do these, because you know when I'm here and when you're here, we're going to get a lot of fiery.
We're not going to agree on
emotional-
anything.
Right. But
We're
that's
like
what makes,
a married couple.
But that's what's great, though. That's what makes it a great show, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we embrace debate, we embrace different points of view, right? So let's dive right in. The start of the NFL season a week from Thursday, which will be the opener between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. I'm sorry, and so all these preseason things come out on ESPN because basically they're going to be bored for the next week and a half, so they aren't going to have a whole lot to talk about coming into the NFL season. So ESPN makes their list of the top 100 NFL players, kind of like the NFL Network does all offseason. ESPN has their list of top 100 players in the NFL. And surprise, surprise, only one Atlanta Falcon lands on the list. That's A.J. Terrell. He comes in at 83. Emily, are the Falcons being disrespected?
A little bit. And I don't say that very often because, let's be honest, the Falcons haven't won a lot in the last couple years. I should say few years, probably.
Yeah.
Chris Lindstrom is one guy who I definitely think should have been on the list, if I'm being honest. I know some people might think Kyle Pitts should have been on it, maybe. Drake
Yeah.
London, maybe, even though he's only been, in the league for a year, but he played very well his rookie season.
And he made the NFL Network's list, too, top 100.
Yeah,
But not
and
ESPN.
it looks like he has a really bright future if he
Yeah.
continues to be healthy and play the way he did last year. But Chris Lindstrom has to be one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. I'm reading right here, he played in all 17 games and earned a 95 overall grade from Pro Football Focus. Listen, that's the reason why he was drafted in the first round, and he has been able to stay on the team. They signed him this offseason. They felt it was important enough, and he's basically the only guy who I trust on the offensive line.
Yeah, they had a list of snubs that a lot of the writers, they kind of looked at, and guys who they thought were snubs from the list. Chris Lindstrom was one of the guys who they thought was a snub from that list. I thought Grady Jarrett maybe a little higher too.
Really?
I don't think he's a dominant interior lineman. I don't think he's even as good as probably he was in recent years, but I still think he's a very effective interior lineman. And we're talking about the top 100 players in football. Yeah, I don't know. Are there that many interior linemen, or just are there 100 players better than Grady Jarrett? Because I still think he's a really good player. I don't know about an elite player still, but 100 players, that's a lot of players to have more than
I
one.
don't know, though, if you really think about it, out of 32 teams, 100, I don't think that's a lot. And I certainly don't
as
think
far as
he's
really-
one of the best 100 in the league. I don't,
So
personally.
we're talking about starters now. So I guess just kind of trim it down. So we're basically talking about maybe 22 players from each team that would probably be eligible to make the list because they're starters. So yeah, look, that's still a lot of players. So I get it, but I think when I saw Grady Jarrett play last year, I still feel like he's a guy who would probably, I guess I wouldn't say elite. But yeah, look, A.J. Terrell.
He's a focal point.
Yeah, he's a focal point
of the
right.
Falcons' defense.
Right.
Now, if he went somewhere else, would he still be? I don't know, but that doesn't matter. What matters is for the Falcons, is he important? Yes, he is.
Yeah.
But for me personally, this is where we disagree, is that I do not think he's in the top 100. I do think A.J. Terrell is. I do think Chris Lindstrom is.
Definitely
And
Lindstrom, yeah.
I most definitely feel as if Pitts and London maybe could have slipped in there. Pitts, perhaps is because he got injured and didn't play, the last few weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he didn't make the list. But I definitely think more than one Falcon should have been included on there. And Scott, it's kind of scary to think about because that's the respect that they don't get from massive publications. They aren't getting the respect. And quite frankly, it's because they don't win. If they were winning more, then I think more guys would have been on that list. And you said it nicely over the weekend. It's a pivotal year for Arthur Smith's coaching staff, and including himself, even general manager Terry Fontenot. You have 2 straight seasons of 7 wins each year. That's not going to cut it, right? So this is your 3rd year. You will be evaluated fully by year 3 on what you can and can't do in the NFL. And I think they are very well aware of that. Very well aware.
I'm right with you. I've been saying it the entire offseason. I said, how many NFL front offices and coaching staffs do you see get 3 consecutive years of not making the playoffs and everybody is intact? Everyone maintains their job. You don't see it a whole lot. It doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, I agree. I think this is a big year for the Falcons and a lot of their players on that roster, because if they fall short, especially if they lose less than, especially if they win less than 7 games again and miss out on the playoffs, yeah, I think you're going to see some heads roll, and I think you're going to see some guys not be here that are here right now, So, this week, though, the Falcons, forget about them. That's not until next week.
Forget the NFL.
Forget the NFL, at least for 1 week,
Best
right?
time of the year has arrived. It's Christmas.
It was definitely your Christmas, right? I mean, this is you are
college ball.
You were synonymous as far as in Atlanta with UGA football, right? I mean, is there another person? I mean, I can't think of anybody else around here whose face identify more with UGA football
Well, that's kind of
than
you.
Emily Gagnon.
That is very kind of you.
I'm just saying,
And everybody out there thinks I'm a UGA fan, or I went to UGA. I just cover the team, and I've been doing it for quite some time now.
Right. So I mean,
It's been a joy.
And it's been crazy. Like, even when I was, last week when we had the topic of who were their 5 All-Americans preseason, and you named them all. That was kind of crazy. I was like, wow, that was impressive. So everybody's focused today. I was out there today.
In Athens.
Out in Athens, out at the facility with UGA as they
Buttsmere.
prep. Buttsmere, as they get ready for their opener against the powerhouse known as Tennessee Martin.
Yeah, UT Martin.
UT Martin. I'm not going to come down too hard. There's a lot of big-time teams that have cream puffs in week 1.
Yeah.
And to their credit, the last couple of years, they've had some powerhouses in the opening week. There will not be a powerhouse this week.
Clemson, remember that?
Yeah, they had Clemson.
They opened up against Clemson.
And Oregon was big time last year too.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so I'm not going to come down too hard.
In big NFL venues, but now it's going to be
For
at
sure.
Sanford Stadium
Right.
this week.
So
Saturday night.
With the exception of an extreme butt kicking, what are you expecting kind of this week? And just, obviously Kirby and those guys. I mean, when I was out there today, they don't look past.
No.
They don't look past Saturday.
He doesn't allow you.
It's
You're
all
focusing on today.
Right, exactly.
You're not focusing on tomorrow, the day after, next week's opponent, an opponent 5 months from now. You're not doing it. You're focused on today. And you're not just focused on the team, you're focused on yourself. He
Yeah.
says a lot like we're focusing on us, and then we focus on the team that we're facing, which is UT Martin. Yes,
Yeah.
I've had this spiel for way too many years now. And I think that's what allows them to win, though, is he drills it in his players' minds. Focus on what's ahead of you. Focus on the now. And when he was picking who would be the next starting quarterback for the team, he said he wanted somebody who could focus on what's in front of them. Like, in this moment, what do you see on the field? He wanted somebody who is able to live in the now. We now know Carson Beck is that guy, but he's big on that. And so don't look past what your assignment is in this very, very second. Some people might disagree with me when I say this, but Scott, I truly believe that this week is needed for the Dogs because Carson Beck has never started a game for UGA. So if you're going to have your first start in college ball, you want it to be against a team that more than likely you're going to beat. Yes. And so this is going to be some really good reps for Carson Beck. He needs that. He needs to go out there and be able to shake off the nervousness. And that might sound crazy to some, like, what does Beck have to be nervous about playing UT Martin? Right. He has a lot to be nervous about because he's never started for a major Division I team. He hasn't. It hasn't happened. He's a junior, or redshirt junior, at UGA and has never started a game. He backed up Stetson last year, but that's it. He's been in the system forever. And so it's his time now to get out there, get those meaningful reps against a team that, yes, you said whoop, right? Yes, more than likely the Dogs will
They're
whoop.
gonna beat this team 68-0.
Right, but it's important. He needs to go out there and be able to throw some easy passes. He needs to be able to throw some nice touchdowns. He needs to be able to take off and run if he needs to, which he's not known for, by the way. He's very good in the pocket, and that's what all his teammates say, but he's not really so much that runner like Stetson Bennett was. I think that this is good for him, and possibly his backups, who more than likely will get in towards the end of the game.
They'll probably be playing by the second quarter,
Yes.
honestly.
Well, I don't know about that. I think Kirby will allow him to play the first and second. Yeah. But come the end of the third quarter, I'm sure we'll see Brock Vandegrift. I mean, Gunnar Stockton might be able to get in there, which is important because guess what? You know this better than anybody else. If Carson Beck gets injured at any point this season, the backup needs to be ready. So if I'm Kirby and Bobo, I'm putting Brock Vandegrift in pretty early on. I would give Beck, the first half, maybe a couple of drives in the third quarter, but then I'm putting in Vandegrift, who, by the way, never has played, meaningful snaps in college ball. So he needs to shake off those nerves as well.
Well, let's be real, though. I mean,
let's be real. Go ahead.
The quarterback at UGA, I mean, he's pretty much.
It doesn't matter.
He's normally just a nameless, faceless guy.
That's why Justin Fields left.
Exactly, because he wasn't going to be a first-round pick at quarterback if he stayed at UGA. I mean, because, look, I just think Kirby Smart is a guy who looks at the quarterback as being just another guy, right? I mean, he looks at. I mean, okay, I won't go that far because he does talk about the responsibility he needs to have, but he's going to go out there and throw a bunch of screen passes to Brock Bowers, and he's going to run him 75 yards for a touchdown because nobody on Tennessee Martin is going to be able to tackle him, right?
So, or like many other programs that they're going to face this season.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's what the passing attack mostly is like for a quarterback at UGA. Quick screen, shuffle pass, basically just administer the offense. Just kind of get the ball where it needs to go.
You have to be a good manager.
Yeah,
but you also have to know the playbook and know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I would hope he knows the playbook after 4 years.
They did change offensive coordinator, but I don't think they've changed much of the system. But yes, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, he should. Look, I expect smart, efficient quarterback play out of Beck because he has been there for quite a while now. Yeah. I expect him to be able to look. He's going to be throwing the wide receivers that are going to be open by 5 or 10 yards this week. So I don't think this week is going to be a real look. I mean, you're right. He needs to get the reps, but I don't think it's going to be a true test of what he is. I don't think we're going to see that until the SEC schedule starts.
I mean, sure, they're not going to show their whole playbook against UT Martin,
right.
But I do think he needs to get his feet wet. Again, He has never started a college football game. He needs to be able to get that out of his system. Because no matter what you say, even though it's at Sanford Stadium, it's a friendly place to be. They're playing a nobody. You still need to be able to get those reps, and you're still going to be nervous no matter what.
Always gotta love those games where the other team is just showing up for the check, man. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, they need these games, Scott, because if not, they won't be able to survive.
I know.
So.
They don't even know, I was in the meeting room. Not that they would really know a lot of these guys' names because they do play for Tennessee Martin, but they're naming guys like, that number one, man, he's a pretty good pass rusher and stuff, and I just wanted to look at him like, come on. You know good and well he won't even be able to come within 5 yards of Carson Beck, who's ever that pass rusher is. He's not gonna even
that
get close.
offensive line is.
Yeah,
listen, UGA's offensive line for the last few years have been. The offensive line and the defensive line for Georgia the last few years have absolutely killed it, and that's where you win games in the trenches, right? Those guys are big boys who know how to do their jobs. But I am worried about, and again, this is not a worry for a while, but I am worried, and I know you heard Kirby talk about it today. I am worried about the running back room. They're very banged up right now, and I know he gave some updates that sound promising.
Yeah.
But still, that's something to look at, the first few weeks of the season. And they have plenty of guys who can take plenty of reps, so it's not just one guy. But the main guys are a little banged up right now, and they have been most of the fall, even the spring. So to me, or I should say fall camp, to me, that's something to watch.
Yeah, they'll do that by committee. They'll use a couple guys to run the football, and they'll get enough yards to win these games. I mean, make no mistake about it. I mean, playing behind that offensive line, it can make almost anybody look good at the quarterback position or the running back position, but definitely at the quarterback position, which brings me to our next topic.
Stetson
Stetson Bennett.
The man.
Who was drafted in the 4th round this past NFL draft by the Los Angeles Rams. He's backing up Matthew Stafford. And
Two former dogs.
Two former dogs there. So, and their head coach is also from the Atlanta area, right? And Sean McVay played his high school ball here, right?
Yep.
Over at Marist.
Yep.
So, nice, comfortable situation for Stetson.
I would have to say so.
Well, I don't know if his play would say so in this preseason as he ends his first NFL preseason as Pro Football Focus lowest rated quarterback. And his last preseason game against the Broncos, my man Stetson went 4 for 9, 14 yards, and 2 interceptions.
Did he threw for 14 yards?
Threw for 14 yards.
And did
I don't even know how you throw the ball.
And
how you
did he have any rushing yards?
I didn't see the rushing yards, though.
Uh-huh.
I was just more so I couldn't get past his passing stats, where he was 4 for 9 for 14 yards and threw 2 interceptions, threw half as many interceptions as he did completions. So, and when you look at all of the message boards and everything on Twitter and all the social media, everyone's like, look at some of these quarterbacks. And I know this guy, there's a couple quarterbacks. I know the Rams backup O'Connell, who was drafted and after Stetson Bennett. The Cleveland Browns backup Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Those guys look really good in preseason. And they were taken after Stetson, and Stetson hasn't looked so good, so it's leading a lot of those teams to be like, we could have had this guy as a backup. Instead, we got this guy who should have been a 6th or a 7th round pick. You got to love social media, right? Got to love it. Stetson probably doesn't love it right now, though.
Listen, but these are the things that motivate him, I will say. And if you'll remember that first year the Dogs won the national championship, he had a flip phone because he didn't want to watch or read about what anybody had to say about him. He just wanted to focus on what was in front of him, focus on the now, which was, winning games for the Dogs as the starter.
Yeah.
Are you surprised right now that you're saying this, Scott? Oh, wow. The fact that there's a pause there, because if you would have asked me that question, I would have said, no, I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised that he played so poorly?
Yes. This is the NFL. It's a different game.
So
he is a very small man. And again, sometimes size doesn't matter. But when you can barely see over your offensive line, which I'm sure he's, maybe facing, I haven't talked to him or anything, but I'm sure that's one of the things that he is struggling with is having to, get the ball in the right spot without maybe perhaps seeing his receiver or tight end there. The only quarterback that I truly know of that did that very well was Drew Brees, who couldn't see over his O-line and would just, have such good relationships and chemistry with his receivers that he would trust that whoever would be exactly where they were supposed to be when he threw the ball.
Right. I mean, we just talked about UGA's offense, right? It protects the quarterback. Let's be real, right? I mean, because you have so many positive things going on around you. They don't put a lot of pressure on their quarterbacks. So I think it allowed Stetson to be his best self, right? He was a smart guy. He went out there and executed the offense. It can make NFL scouts maybe think a guy is a little better than what he is. So look, I mean, it's going to be for what he was asked to do at UGA and what he will be asked to do as an NFL quarterback, especially on a team right now that doesn't really have a lot of weapons around him. If he has an opportunity to play, I think this is going to get rough for him, right? I mean, I don't doubt his toughness. I think he'll be resilient. I think he will have a long career because I think that he'll be scrappy enough and smart enough to be a really good backup quarterback for a lot of years. But I think kind of what you saw in these preseason games is a guy who's not really a force multiplier. He's a guy who needs a lot of things going on right around him for him to look like the quarterback he wants to be. So I guess it didn't surprise me a whole lot that he's facing NFL struggles. And look, I mean, he's going to see a lot of things that a lot of defenses that he's never seen before. There's going to be a lot of new working. So, I mean, there's going to be a struggle and adjustment period. And when he does have an opportunity to play, because I do have a hunch that at some point this season he probably will play. I mean, you have an aging Matthew Stafford. I think Stetson's going to get an opportunity, and I don't really have a high level of confidence that he's going to look great. But he's proved people wrong, so he could prove me wrong.
He could prove me wrong too, because he's proved me wrong a lot of times.
Right.
If he's proved anyone wrong in his career, it's been me, because I have said.
Yours motivation.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that, but I've been the typical like I don't believe that he can, and he did. So
You're a doubter.
But listen, yes, doubter, not hater though, because
I know.
when he did well for Georgia, which by the way, the defense, having that defense behind you for 2 years straight, I mean, let's be honest,
It helps.
You don't have to do much. But yeah, man, listen, Stetson, kill it in LA, like get it together. But if it doesn't happen for him, I'm not surprised.
All right, so let's jump to our next topic here. Just want to get some thoughts here, right? So this past weekend, it made national news as Benjamin Emay's football coach punched his player in the stomach. At least it appeared that's what happened. So obviously that kind of got the nation kind of jumping in on what happened here. And it became national news. The coach was since then has faced legal charges and everything from that incident. So it's kind of sparked a lot of, I saw a lot of social media chatter about this particular.
Let me hear it.
I have ranging opinions on kind of on this.
I think we both do.
So I guess let me say this, at least sort of starting, right? And this is what I said before. And look, I mean, I'll be very transparent. I'm 44 years old. I'll be 45 years old on Wednesday, God willing.
Wait, your birthday's this week?
My birthday's on
Oh
Wednesday.
my gosh, you
Yeah.
didn't say anything.
So, well, I mean, just,
Oh, you have the day off too.
It's like hung around here on the walls and stuff, like different notices for employees. I don't know if you've seen them before.
I don't pay attention.
Well, I know. But so I played football like long ago, back when I was in school playing football. So times have changed. But let me be real. I saw this kind of thing all the time from coaches, and I'm not saying it's right. And once again, that was...
Again, guys, he's not saying it's right,
but totally not saying it's right.
Let's be honest about the things that actually happen on a football field when cameras aren't around.
There's a whole lot of things that go down on a football field that we don't see every day. A whole lot of things that go down in practices that probably wouldn't be right in normal society. If you're out and you see someone walking down the street, there's a lot of things that happen.
Correct.
Just because of the kind of sport and the nature of the sport that football is. I remember one time, I'm not going to name the school, I'm not going to name the coach or anything, but a lot of my friends would talk about back when we were in school in a football practice where I once saw a coach kick a player in the face mask. Because he did something wrong. Sort of just the guy busted through the line, coach got mad and put his foot up and kicked him near his face. It bounced off his face mask. And us as players didn't really think much of it because that's the sort of thing we saw back then. So I think sometimes with a lot of things in life, we have a generational gap where a coach who may have come from a different time.
That's a really, you said that very eloquently, a generational gap.
Yeah, I think there's a generational gap because I think you may have coaches who come from a different time who were sort of raised differently and raised to handle players a little differently, having to adjust to life in 2023 where certain things just aren't acceptable and you have to be able to make that adjustment.
Yeah, especially when cameras are around.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think we're going to leave it at that because I've never played football, but I've seen and heard things that your average bear probably would think is completely wrong.
Right.
Listen, to play any sport, especially football, you have to have a different kind of mindset.
Different dude, man. You have to be a different dude.
And when you go out there on a Saturday, on a Sunday, you're going to get hit and you're going to hurt and you're going to play through all kinds of things to either make money or hope to make money one day.
Yeah.
So most coaches have played football who are coaching you out there.
For sure.
And that generational gap, like when they were kids, their coaches said and did things to them. Again, not supporting the bad things, but it's just it passes on from generation to generation to generation.
Yeah.
So.
And when you're just not just in football, but certainly in football and in sports, but when you're adjusting to life, you have to understand you can't do things in 2023 that were acceptable in 1995.
Correct.
So I think when you're learning how to coach, when you're coaching today's players and everything, when you understand what society is today, you have to be able to adjust your coaching style for where we are now, or else you won't be coaching very long. And that's just
Right.
the reality.
Even if it worked when you were young.
Exactly.
Like,
Even if you
if
want.
your coach did it to you, but now you're doing it to your players, yes, you have to adjust a little bit. But I will say, beyond like touching kids, Scott, I think most people would be just surprised to hear how coaches talk to players.
Oh man.
I mean,
Look, I have some stories. I have so many stories
Right.
about things that coaches did that I saw in football practices.
well, no,
and-
but now,
Well,
how
even now,
coaches
yeah,
talk
for
to
sure.
players now.
Oh yeah.
You have to be able to like let it in one ear and out the other, because the words that are used, the names that
Oh,
are, I mean,
Wouldn't be acceptable in any other walk of life.
in no setting.
In
But
no
it
setting would be
works
acceptable.
for the setting that they are in.
Right, because you have to get ready to play.
You
a
have to
very
be
violent
mentally
game.
tough.
Right,
Yes.
because you're preparing.
Again, we're not condoning any violence at all.
No,
or
but you're preparing young men to play
bullying.
a very violent game.
Correct.
So there has to be an element of toughness that
Correct.
goes into getting players ready to play a football game.
That is correct.
So I'll just leave it at that. Maybe people will hate that part of what I had to say, but
It's the truth.
Yeah, but I think as a person who's played the game, who's on different levels, I just understand what it takes to get ready to play a football game.
Hallelujah.
So, what's on your mind, Emily?
LSU, Florida State. You've got the number 5 Tigers taking on the Seminoles. So it's a top 10 showdown on Sunday night. That's about the only game maybe
care
worth
about?
watching this weekend. But Sunday night, 7:30, that is going to be your prime time matchup. Sit in front of your couch. NFL football's coming. You don't got to worry about it yet, but worry about number 5 LSU taking on number 8 FSU. If you'll remember last year, Scott, I don't know if you remember this, but LSU lost by like a very, very small margin. Very small margin to FSU. LSU won the West in the SEC last year. Obviously, they played UGA in the SEC championship game. Georgia won that. History was, the rest is history for Georgia and for LSU. However, LSU is coming in with practically the entire same team that they had last year.
That's a dangerous team.
Correct. Jaden Daniels, even though he was picked up like a rag doll by Jalen Carter in the SEC championship game.
It happens.
Yeah, that was last year, and he learned a lot. But listen, that quarterback, I think he also led the team in rushing yards last year, which might not be the best thing, but that tells you how dangerous he is. He can throw the ball, he can run the ball, and I expect them to go into this game with huge chips on their shoulders, given what happened last year. And I believe this game is in Orlando at the stadium there.
Yeah.
If I could be wrong, but I think that's where it was last year. But that is the game I'll be watching this weekend. Obviously we're going to watch Tech, and we're going to watch GSU and Kennesaw State and Georgia. But this game here is going to be like the game of the weekend in college football.
You mean you're not fired up to watch Ohio State versus Indiana?
I did see that, and Fred, our beloved Fred Khalil, he will be watching that, and you guys will probably text about it. But that could be a good matchup. Though I think you guys are, well, when I say you guys, Buckeyes, are going to.
It's going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
Indiana's always kind of at the bottom of the Big Ten, so,
But they sometimes pull off some big upsets.
For sure. Yeah,
You can't count them out.
No, they're a big conference school. They got some good players, and
Yeah.
they're capable of beating anybody if you take them lightly. So
That's correct. What's on your mind, and quickly, because I feel like we're about to be out of here.
I really got nothing. I'm right with you. College football, I'm fired up for this week. I watch games week 0. I'll be watching games this week, so I'm looking forward to it. It's an exciting time, and I can't wait.
Whoop, whoop.
Cool. That's been Sports Tonight on a Monday. We look forward to you joining us for the rest of the week. Emily?
Yep.
It's been fun. And remember, you can also check us out wherever you get your podcast, whether it's on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else, wherever you view your podcast. Check us out. Download us. ANF Plus Sports Tonight. Download us. Listen to us on the drive home. And we know you're stuck in traffic because I've seen some of those traffic reports, all right? I know you're stuck in traffic. Listen to it while you're on your way home or while you're stuck, right?
Love it.
Look.
Especially when me and Scott are together.
Exactly.
These are the quality ones.
Exactly.
Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night.